Airport security officers stopped Caroline Levit for not showing her ID. But when she pulled out a court order, the entire terminal froze. The emergency alarm blared through Logan International Airport's Terminal C, slicing through the morning bustle like a siren of doom. Not a fire alarm, something worse. A security breach. Every head turned. Every conversation stopped. And at the center of it all stood Caroline Levit, holding a document surrounded by a ring of TSA officers whose faces were carved from stone. "Step back," barked the lead officer. "This is a security situation." Caroline's pulse pounded, but her face stayed calm. 6 years as White House press secretary had taught her one rule: never show fear. 3 hours earlier. The shrill ring of the hotel phone yanked Caroline from sleep. She fumbled for the receiver. "Miss Levit," said a voice she recognized instantly. Special Agent Marcus Delaney, her security chief. His tone froze her blood. "The president needs you back in Washington." Caroline sat upright, instantly alert. She'd only been in Boston 10 hours, just enough to deliver her keynote speech at the New England Press Association dinner and collapse into bed at the Four Seasons. "What happened?" she asked. "Not over the phone," Delaney said. "Car's waiting downstairs. Wheels up in 40 minutes. The line went dead. Caroline moved fast, packing, dressing, tying her hair into a tight ponytail. The clock read 4:37 a.m. as she grabbed her briefcase and headed for the elevator. In her mind, possible scenarios ran wild. Terror threat, foreign attack, a crisis in the Oval Office. Delaney was waiting by the revolving doors, his dark suit crisp despite the hour. "A package arrived at the White House at 3, he said, opening the SUV door. "Foreign origin. Contents classified. The president's invoked Emergency Protocol 7. Caroline froze. EP7 was reserved for imminent national security threats, the kind that could start wars. The Secretary of State's flying back from Tokyo. Defense has been at the Pentagon since 3:15. Delaney continued as the SUV sped through the quiet city. "The president wants me to handle the press conference," Caroline said. Delaney nodded. 10 a.m. sharp, your team's preparing your notes now." He handed her a sealed envelope with the presidential seal. Inside was a document bearing the header of the U.S. District Court for D.C. "A court order?" she asked. "Expedited travel clearance for key White House officials. Signed 2 days ago. Why would I need this? I have diplomatic clearance." "The president insisted," Delaney replied. "Said you might encounter resistance." They reached Logan International just as dawn brushed the horizon. Her private Gulfstream jet waited, but moments later Delaney's phone rang. His expression darkened. "Change of plans. The jet's grounded, mechanical failure. How long to fix it?" "Too long. You'll take United 937, departs at 6:15, lands at Dulles by 7:58. "Fine," Caroline said. "Let's go." "One more thing," Delaney added quietly. "You're going alone. Civilian travel only. Director's orders." Caroline stopped. "That's not protocol, Marcus." He looked uneasy. "The package. It points to a possible insider threat. High level. That's all I know. Watch your back." He handed her a boarding pass. "I'll meet you in D.C. Stay alert." Moments later, Caroline stood in the TSA line, just another passenger among bleary-eyed travelers. She checked her watch. 5:43 a.m., then panic. Her blazer pocket was empty. Her wallet was still on the hotel nightstand. "Ma'am, ID, please," said the officer, a stern woman with a silver bun and a face that didn't do exceptions. "I'm so sorry," Caroline said. "I left it at my hotel. I'm Caroline Levit, White House press secretary. I need to get to D.C. immediately. It's a national security emergency." "Rules are rules," the officer said. "No ID, no entry." "Please," Caroline tried. "I can show my White House credentials on my phone." "Digital IDs aren't acceptable," came the curt reply. "Step aside." Caroline took a steadying breath. "May I speak with a supervisor?" Moments later, Supervisor Martinez arrived, tall, calm, unreadable. "What's the issue?" "No ID," the officer said. "Claims to be White House staff." Martinez turned to Caroline. "Any form of government ID?" "No," she said. "But this is an emergency. Without ID, you can't pass. There's an alternate process, but it takes hours." "I don't have hours," she said, voice sharp now. "My flight leaves in 30 minutes. "Then go back for your ID and rebook," Martinez said flatly. The passengers behind her shifted impatiently. A businessman sighed loudly. Then Caroline remembered. She opened her briefcase and pulled out the court order, the one Delaney had given her. This document authorizes expedited travel for key White House officials in national security situations, she said, voice now commanding. Signed by Judge Eleanor Davis, D.C. Circuit Court. Martinez examined the seal. His tone shifted. Where did you get this? From the office of the president, Caroline replied. Section 4, paragraph 2, check it. It overrides standard ID requirements during security emergencies. Martinez read carefully, brows tightening. The officer beside him glanced over, eyes wide. I'll need to verify this, Martinez said, reaching for his radio. Of course, Caroline replied calmly. And while you do, contact your regional director. This falls under an executive order. 13,126, a number I'm sure your director is familiar with. The invocation of the executive order was a gamble. Caroline had no idea whether the regional director actually knew what it meant. She barely remembered the details herself, but the confidence in her voice did its job. Martinez stepped aside, speaking quietly into his radio. The TSA officer who'd stopped her kept directing passengers to other lanes, while travelers flowed around Caroline like a river around a stone. Lane 4 had come to a complete stop. Agents at nearby checkpoints cast curious glances their way, and passengers began recording openly on their phones. Caroline stayed composed, though her mind raced. The odds of making her flight were shrinking fast. The businessman who had complained earlier now filmed the scene directly. Great. Social media would have this in minutes. Martinez returned, his face a mix of concern and deference. Miss Levit, my supervisor is coming to speak with you personally, he said. In the meantime, would you step into our administrative area? He gestured toward a glass-walled office. How long will this take? Caroline asked. My flight leaves in 25 minutes. We're moving as fast as we can, ma'am. She followed him into the office, a sterile space with procedural posters and Homeland Security notices on the walls. Please wait here, Martinez said, then stepped out. Through the glass, Caroline watched him confer with several TSA officials as they examined her court order. One agent was on the phone, gesturing animatedly. Her phone buzzed again, another text from the unknown number. Where are you? Situation critical. She checked the time, 5:55 a.m. Her flight would start boarding any minute. She typed quickly, delayed at Logan Security, no ID, using the court order. The reply came instantly. Use Section 5, invoke federal authority. Caroline flipped to the 5th page of the order. Buried in legal language was a clause granting designated White House officials temporary federal authority over local security protocols during national emergencies. Invoke federal authority. It sounded extreme. What was happening in Washington that justified this? Before she could think further, the office door opened. A woman in a navy blazer with a TSA executive insignia entered, followed by Martinez and another agent. Miss Levit, I'm Assistant Director Gloria Ramirez, she said, extending her hand. I understand there's a situation. Assistant Director, thank you for responding, Caroline replied, shaking her hand. I'm under direct orders to return to Washington for a national security matter. My flight leaves in less than 20 minutes. Ramirez nodded. I've reviewed your court order. It appears genuine, but we have strict verification protocols, and especially for something this unusual. I understand, Caroline said, but the urgency, Miss Levit, Ramirez interrupted. If this were a standard clearance, we could expedite it. But this document effectively asks us to suspend TSA procedures. I need to consult with our legal team in DHS headquarters. Caroline felt time slipping away. She drew herself up, voice steady and firm, the same tone she used in White House briefings. Assistant Director, Section 5 grants me authority to temporarily override local security protocols in matters of national security. Ramirez's eyebrows rose. You're invoking Section 5? Yes, I am. The air in the room shifted. Martinez looked uneasy. Another agent stepped back. Miss Levit, Ramirez said carefully. That action has major implications. It freezes all standard operations and alerts Homeland Security. Are you prepared for that? Caroline thought of the urgent texts, Delaney's warnings, and the president waiting in Washington. I am. Ramirez held her gaze, then nodded. Very well. Martinez, initiate Protocol 7B and escort Miss Levit to her gate immediately. Martinez hesitated. Ma'am, 7B is a terminal-wide escalation protocol. I'm aware, Ramirez said sharply. Execute it. He nodded and left. You'll be escorted to your flight, Ramirez told Caroline. But understand, invoking Section 5 will trigger a full DHS review. If there's any irregularity— There isn't, Caroline interrupted. This order comes from the highest levels of government. I can't stress enough how urgent this is. Before Ramirez could reply, an announcement echoed through the airport. Attention all travelers and staff. TSA is initiating a security verification measure. All checkpoint processing is temporarily suspended. Please remain where you are. Through the glass, Caroline watched the airport freeze. TSA agents moved into positions as lines halted and passengers stood motionless. This is Protocol 7B, Ramirez explained. It's usually reserved for bomb threats or terror suspects. We've never used it for administrative reasons. The door opened again. A TSA officer in tactical gear entered. Ma'am, escort team is ready, Ramirez nodded. This officer will take you to your gate. Your flight has been notified. Thank you, Assistant Director, Caroline said, grabbing her briefcase. Don't thank me, Ramirez replied. Just make sure Washington is worth shutting down an entire terminal. Caroline followed the escort into the terminal. The scene was surreal. Thousands of travelers frozen mid-motion, TSA teams stationed throughout. The usual airport hum replaced by an eerie silence. As they passed, people whispered and recorded, "Who is that woman? Must be a threat. Never seen anything like this." Her phone buzzed again. Feed is live. Terminal shutdown registering at the Pentagon. What did you do? She didn't answer. They reached gate C-22. The gate agent looked relieved. Miss Levit, we've been holding for you. Thank you, she said, handing over her pass. Safe travels, the escort said formally, turning back as the gate door closed behind her. As she walked down the jet bridge, the PA system came to life again. Security verification complete. Normal operations resuming. Caroline settled into her first-class seat, aware of the stares around her. We'll be departing immediately, the flight attendant said softly. Priority clearance has been granted. Caroline nodded and looked out the window as the plane pushed back from the gate. Through the terminal windows, Caroline watched the security area slowly return to life. The chaos was settling, passengers moving again as if the freeze had never happened. Her phone buzzed one last time, just before the announcement to switch to airplane mode. Whatever you did worked. But there's more you need to know. Trust no one when you land, not even me. The message was from Delaney. As the plane roared down the runway, Caroline felt the weight of the court order in her briefcase. It felt like a loaded weapon. She'd just used it to freeze an entire airport terminal, power she hadn't realized she possessed. What crisis in Washington could possibly justify something like this? The jet lifted off, banking toward the southwest. Caroline Levit, White House press secretary, stared out at the fading Boston skyline, wondering what exactly she had set in motion, and whether she'd regret it. 5 minutes later, back in the terminal, Assistant Director Ramirez stood in the administrative office. Phone pressed to her ear. Yes, sir. She invoked Section 5 and departed on schedule. No, sir, we didn't verify her identity through standard protocols. Yes, sir, I understand the implications. No, sir, I wasn't aware that no such court order exists in the Federal Registry. She ended the call, staring through the glass wall at the now normal terminal. Then she picked up her radio. Security alert, Priority 1, direct from Homeland Security. Possible national security breach. Subject: Caroline Levit, White House press secretary aboard United 937 to Washington Dulles. Detain upon arrival. Repeat, Priority 1 alert. In the air, unaware of the chaos behind her, Caroline fastened her seatbelt as the captain announced their cruising altitude. In less than 2 hours, she'd be in Washington. What she didn't know was that 5 federal agencies were already scrambling to respond. The document in her briefcase, the court order that had shut down Logan Airport, had just been flagged as a forgery. And at the White House, the real Caroline Levit, who had never left D.C., was being informed that someone was impersonating her. The standoff at Logan was only the beginning. Minutes earlier, The terminal manager, TSA chief, and airport security had converged on the checkpoint. The atmosphere was tense, electric. Caroline had stood her ground, clutching the document that could either clear her path or destroy her. A woman with salt and pepper hair and an air of command stepped forward. "Miss Levit, I'm Director Hernandez," she said, extending a hand. "I apologize for the confusion. May I see the document?" Caroline handed it over. The terminal had gone eerily silent, hundreds of eyes fixed on them. Even the usual airport announcements seemed to hold their breath. After a long moment, Hernandez looked up. "This appears valid. However, there's a verification protocol we must follow." She led Caroline into a private room near the checkpoint. Inside waited two men in dark suits, one from Homeland Security, the other from the FBI. "Miss Levit," said the Homeland agent. "I'm Agent Bennett. We need to verify your identity through alternative means." For 20 tense minutes, Caroline answered detailed questions about her work, access codes, and classified protocols. Her pulse pounded. This wasn't about catching a flight anymore, it was a full-blown federal investigation. Finally, Bennett nodded to Hernandez. Identity confirmed. Relief flooded through her, but it didn't last. "Miss Levit," Hernandez said quietly. "Your identity checks out and the order is authentic, but you need to see this." She slid a tablet across the table. On screen, a breaking news alert. White House Communications Director Thomas Reynolds arrested for espionage. All staff credentials under review. Caroline felt the blood drain from her face. Thomas was her boss, her mentor. She'd spoken to him just hours earlier. "This can't be," she whispered. "The arrest happened 90 minutes ago," said the FBI agent. "All White House staff travel is under enhanced security review. Your order is valid, but these developments complicate things." The realization hit her hard. She wasn't just returning for a press briefing. She might now be tied to an espionage case. "I had no idea," she stammered. "I didn't know anything about this." "We're not accusing you," Bennett assured her. "But we'll need your full cooperation. The press conference you were headed to has been canceled. The president wants you back in D.C. immediately, but not for the reasons you think." Her phone buzzed again. An unknown number. "Stay where you are. Don't trust anyone." Thomas was framed. "You might be next." She looked up at the officials watching her. Were they protecting her or containing her? "Miss Levit," Hernandez said, "a private flight is waiting. The chief of staff will meet you on arrival." Caroline slipped her phone into her pocket, her mind spinning. The court order that had once felt like power now felt like a trap. What had Thomas slipped into it? Was she carrying something incriminating without realizing it? "I understand," she said finally. "I'll cooperate fully." As she was escorted through the terminal, she passed the TSA officer who'd stopped her earlier. Their eyes met. "I'm sorry," the officer said softly. Caroline nodded. The woman had been doing her job, following rules designed to protect everyone. Caroline had overridden them, never considering there might be a reason. Outside, a black SUV waited on the tarmac. Caroline stepped in, the door closing with a heavy thud that felt final. The power that had frozen an airport was now dragging her into a storm she might not survive. Whatever awaited in Washington, one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. At